If you're with us tonight, it's because you received in the mail your Ohio Forest Tax Law 5-year self-certification form. And this session is to kind of help you fill that out. If you've been in our program more than 5 years, you've been through an inspection in the past, which was typically a in-field visit where the forester would come out and meet with you. And they were actually always designed to be a self-certification where the landowner themselves would let us know what they've been doing. And then if there is a need for a visit, then we would come out and do a visit. So we redesigned the form a little bit to help you give us a little more information on what you're doing. And what we're going to do here is kind of run through some details of the program and then the form, try to help you answer your questions, and then we can move forward. So my name is Jeremy Scherf. I'm a service forester with the Ohio Division of Forestry. And I'm also now the program coordinator for the Forest Tax Law program and the Central Ohio Service Forestry coordinator. So I'm a supervisor for about a third of the foresters in the state that work with this program. So I've been a service forester for about 20 years. I work out of the Cambridge area in Eastern Ohio. So doing this for a little while. So, just a reminder for some of you, this form is the 5-year inspection to help ensure you're meeting the guidelines of our program. And a reminder, the program is providing you a 50% tax reduction on your property taxes on your forested acres. So basically, in exchange for the tax break, you have agreed to manage your property. Specifically, there's 6 or 7 points here that are in the agreement form that I just thought it would be good to run through real quick. So you've agreed to declare that your forest land will be devoted exclusively to forestry with a primary objective of producing merchantable forest products and may include its allied fields of wildlife conservation, recreation, aesthetics, etc., where these do not interfere with the productivity of the forest. You've also agreed to establish and maintain property boundary lines and/or forest boundary line markings according to OFTL standards. We'll talk a little bit later about property boundaries. You've agreed to follow the forest management plan prepared for your property. So before cutting timber, you should submit a timber harvest notice of intent or a timber harvest plan with your local county soil and water conservation district and with your Division of Forestry forester. When cutting timber, a professional forester must be consulted to ensure the timber harvest complies with your forest management plan. You must also use a logger certified by the Ohio Forestry Association as a master logger. The main requirement there is that you must use an Ohio certified master logger to cut the timber. If that is not possible, you need to work with your forester ahead of time to see if there are other options. During and at the close of logging operations, you should implement best management practices to prevent or reduce erosion, sedimentation, and water pollution. And just a couple more here. Protect your forest land from livestock, so we can't have livestock grazing in the woods. And to the best of your ability, protect your forest land from fires. And that's essentially meaning not to set your woods on fire. We don't want you out there trying to put out a fire if a wildfire is coming through. That's way too dangerous. Call the fire department for that, but to the best of your ability, protect the property from fires. So those are the basic things you've agreed to do, including following your forest management plan. Excuse me. So this form will serve as your 5-year reinspection. It will be used by your service forester to determine if a site visit is needed on your property. You can also use the form to request a visit should you need one, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So if you fill out this form and say you're doing everything and we agree with that, then that'll be the end of your inspection this year. But if you feel like, hey, I really could use a visit from my service forester, I have some questions I need answered, I need to know how to do some things, then you can indicate that on the form and we will set up a time to meet with you over the coming year. So I'm going to try to get through this relatively easily. So we're going to go ahead and jump in on the form. This is the form you got in the mail. And I blocked out guy's last name and his address just for security reasons, but it's the same form that everybody got. It lists up at the top the name and address, your name and address, your OFTL certification number. So up there at top on the left side is your OFTL certification number. That's your certificate number that it's assigned to you. And then your Division of Forestry case record number is the number we use to keep track of the individual landowner files. So if you're contacting your service forester about something, you can give them your name, and your case record number is what we'll use to look up your file. And then it's got the parcel numbers and the acres, and then the county and township that your property is in that is certified forest acres. So in this case, the first parcel number is 22-75.000. There's 20.33 acres of that parcel that's in the program. So that parcel may be 21 acres or maybe 25 acres and maybe 30 acres in size, but only 20.33 of it is certified forest land is in the program. So if you look at that and you say, wait a minute, my property is larger than that, that's the reason being is that only a portion of that parcel is in the program. So remember, we can only certify forested acres, and we can't certify home sites and things like that. So what I've done is screenshot individual questions from your form so we can talk about them one at a time. So this is the first question, and it says, are your property lines currently marked per OFTL standards? And you can check yes or no. And then if yes, please describe how your property boundaries are marked. So when you got in the program, you were required to mark your property boundaries. At that time, it was probably every 66 feet. We changed it recently to 100 feet, and it was usually done with paint. But you are required to maintain that through the life of the program. Those lines and markings always have to be visible. So you can do that with blazing of trees with paint. You can put paint marks on your trees. We more often than not recommend using an oil-based paint with a 4-inch paintbrush and brushing it on the trees. It's going to last a lot longer. I would not suggest using a cheap aerosol, and I certainly would not suggest using a fluorescent aerosol. The fluorescents will fade real bad, and they just won't last, and you're going to have to redo it very quickly. So now there is a aerosol boundary paint on the market in the last few years. It's sold by forestry suppliers, and it is their brand paint, Forestry Suppliers brand paint. You can look them up online at forestrysuppliers.com. That has been lasting very well, and obviously aerosol is a lot easier to use. It's not real cheap. It's pushes $7 a can unless you buy it in quantity, but it does seem to be working pretty well. But a paint mark on the tree along the property line. You could also put a post or a stake in the ground as long as it's 4.5 feet tall. You could put a fence up if you want to. It's expensive and not always necessary, but you could do that. Or if there's an existing fence that is in good enough condition, it's just basically got to be something that's going to be noticed real well. Metal or sturdy plastic signs measuring at least 4 inches by 4 inches or 4 inches in diameter. Now it does not include the plastic signs that are real flimsy, almost paper thin, that are going to deteriorate right away. So they need to be something that's going to last a long time. So your marks, your signs, your posts, whatever it be, should be no farther than 100 feet apart and need to be visible from one mark to the next. So a lot of times, if you mark them real good when you first get in the program, if you mark them again in about 3 years, you'll get maybe another 10 years out of it, maybe 8, depending on sunlight and weather and quality of paint, things like that. But so basically what we're asking here is if you're maintaining those markings and how they're marked. And if we want to know that so that if we're coming out to do a site visit, we can easily know what we're looking for. We're walking through the woods on a property we may have never been to or maybe unfamiliar with it. It's good to know that to look for the yellow paint marks on the tree or the white fence post or the yellow metal sign or whatever the case is. But for the most part, most landowners just put a paint mark on the tree. I think it's the cheapest and the easiest way to do it. So. Question number 2. So in this question, we want you to refer to your forest management plan. So the plan is something you got when you were enrolled in the program. It may be something, unfortunately, that you haven't looked at since you got in the program, but you do need to pull it out and review it and use it to answer some of these questions. If you can't find it or you don't have it, my suggestion is to contact your county service forester and ask him to provide you a copy of it, because he will have a copy of it in his file. So what we're asking you to do here is list all the management activities that were recommended to be done in the previous 5 years and indicate how much of each has been done. Under complete, indicate yes or no or in progress for a practice that is partially done. Under acres, indicate the number of acres of active management work completed. And you're welcome to use an additional sheet of paper if necessary, or the back of this page, or whatever. So when you open up your management plan and start looking through it, you're going to see that in a lot of cases, the property is divided up into different stands or different management units. We call those stands, basically they're a stand of trees, but they could be labeled something else either, but it might be stand A and then stand B, stand C, it could be stand 1, stand 2, stand 3. Could be called a unit, maybe unit A or unit B, unit 1, unit 2, things like that. Depends on who wrote the plan and how they label it. Some of our plans are only going to have one stand, and it might just be called stand A or stand 1. But in your plan, it will break each of those stands out into recommendations and descriptions and things like that. So you can look through there and see what stand A has in it. Maybe it's a oak hickory stand that needs a timber harvest, and stand B is a pine stand that needs a thinning or something like that. So, excuse me, you'll need to look in each stand description or in your activity schedule, which will be towards the back of your plan, and see what's scheduled to be done in the last 5 years. So basically from 2015 to 2020. And then we want you to list in this section here what things you have worked on, what you've done, things like that, so we can know what progress you're making in following your management plan. So I'll give you an example here. So in this property, the landowner worked on grapevine control in stand A on 21 acres, and he did complete it. He also is working on tree of heaven control, which is an invasive species, in stand B. There's 8 acres that he's supposed to be doing, and he is in progress and still working on that. And he also had to do some erosion control on his skid trails in stand C. That's been completed on 18 acres. So those are the kind of things we're looking for, and it could be a lot of different things. It could be timber harvest. You could even put in something that's not completed, and maybe you have questions about it, and you can give us an indication on that. Or let's say you were scheduled to do a timber harvest, but you didn't do it because the timber market's not good right now. You could put in there timber harvest in stand A on 21 acres, not completed, and then put a note in there saying that timber markets are down. You're waiting for the markets to come back up and bring a better price or something like that. We're here to work with you and keep you in the program. We're not here to crack the whip and to be hard on you or anything. We want to work with you. We mainly want to see some progress. If you're showing us progress, we're going to be pretty happy, because we want to help you. We want to help you manage your woods and make it healthier and better for everyone. So, excuse me. So go on to the next question. Question number 3. Again, refer to your written forest management plan. We're asking if you do you understand what activities, if any, you'll be working on in the next 5 years. So, again, look at your forest management plan. Look in the standard recommendations or the activity schedule for the next 5 years. So from now, 2020 through 2025, and see if you understand what you're supposed to be working on. Your plan may say let your timber grow, or it might not say anything, or it might say do grapevine control or thin out, a stand, or do crop tree release or something like that. If you're clear on what you're supposed to be doing and understand it, then check yes. If you're not clear and you need some help, then you can check no. This question also asks when your forest management plan expires. Plans are typically good for 10 years. Sometimes a plan will have an expiration date in it, sometimes it won't, but they're typically good for 10 years, so you could look at 10 years from the date it was written and write in there when that plan expires. So it is up to the landowner to maintain an up-to-date forest management plan. So if your plan is expired, we will give you some time to get a new plan, and you can work with your service forester on options of hiring a private forester, or there is a federal cost share program that could pay for the cost of getting a new plan. So So I combined these two questions together on the same sheet here because they're asking, similar things. Question number 4 is, have the certified forest acres decreased as a result of land use changes since your last communication with the Division of Forestry? So since we worked with you last time and set this program up for you, has your forested acres decreased? Now this could be because you've sold some ground, or maybe you cleared some ground to farm, or a pipeline right of way went through, well pad, Eastern Ohio. We got a lot of those going in, went on your property, things like that. Some of those may trigger a decrease in your certified acres. Some of them may not. If the opening, like for a pipeline right of way, is less than 120 feet, in most cases, we're going to just continue a compatible use or consider it a compatible use, and it won't reduce your acres. But if 5 acres of your woods was cleared for a well pad, then it will trigger a reduction in your forested acres, which is fine, but it is something we need to know about. Question 5 is the opposite. Has your forested acres increased due to a tree planting, natural succession, land acquisition, or for other reason? So in this case, maybe you had an open field that's not in a program that you've planted the trees, and that's now considered forest land. Or maybe an area reverted to forest naturally and is now forest land and should be included and increase the number of acres you're getting a tax break on. Or maybe you've bought a parcel adjacent to your property, increase your acreage that we could include. And there could be some other reasons as well. So it's just in the interest of increasing the amount of acres in the program and saving you even more money. So question number 6. Have you sold or harvested any timber in the last 5 years? And it's a pretty simple question, just yes or no. Now, if you went out and cut 3 or 4 trees down and had them sawn up on your mill, or you had a tree blow over and you drug it out of the woods and you hauled it to the sawmill, that's not a big deal. But we're talking selling or harvesting commercially timber. So where you've had a logger come in with a skidder or a dozer or whatever and actually harvested the trees, and you've been paid money for them. So we are asking if you sold or harvested, and the difference there is that you may have sold the timber, but it's not been cut yet. So we do want to know that, and obviously harvested means that the timber has been cut. So if you have done this, we want you again to refer to your forest management plan and let us know which stands or management units were included in harvest. So maybe the harvest was in stand A. Maybe the harvest was on your entire property. You could just indicate all stands or list the stands or just say the entire property. The next question here is, how were trees chosen for harvest? So our question there stems around whether you used a forester to choose the trees or whether the logger chose them, and then how the trees were selected. Was it based off of trees marked by a forester? Was it a clear cut or a single tree selection harvest or a shelter wood or an improvement cut? Basically some idea to give us some notation to give us an idea of how the timber was chosen to be cut. And then the next question here is, who was the Ohio certified master logger? So whoever the name of the logger is that cut the timber, you can write that down. Sometimes you'll have a sawmill that bought it and a logger that cut it who's a different company, and you can put both of those down there as well. I wish the chat window was working if you guys had some questions, but we'll make sure you have my email address and my phone number here at the end that you can get some questions to me. So question number 7, which I believe is actually near the end here, is, are you in need of information or a field visit from your state service forester for forest management or program requirements? So this is your opportunity to say, yes, I would like a visit from my forester, or no, I'm fine. There's a place here to write in what your question is maybe it's just that you need to know how to kill a tree of heaven, or maybe you need someone to help you pick trees to cut down for crop tree release, or maybe you just got some basic questions, or you just want to walk through to assess the condition of your forest, or whatever the reason is. That's what we're here for, and we are here to help. So this is where you let us know that you do want to visit. So if we get this form and everything looks fine, we're liable just to sign off on the form and put you in a database as inspected and everything's good. And we're not going to plan to do a visit. Some things may trigger us to call you and do a visit on our own. But if you do want to visit, we want to make sure you get that opportunity. So this is your your opportunity to indicate that. And if you need more space, you can attach another sheet of paper or flip the page over right on the back, just indicate that you've done that, so we make sure we see it. So, and then when we get down here to the bottom of the form, the very bottom of the form is for us to use, but the section above that is for you. And this is where you basically need to say that whether you want to stay in the program or not. So the first box says, I hereby certify that I have complied with the forest management plan and the intent of the forest tax law by completing the above prescribed practices and wish to continue certification on my forest land. So you're basically saying, hey, I've done what I'm supposed to do and I want to stay in your program. The next box is where it says, I have not completed all the practices prescribed in my forest management plan, but I wish to continue certification on my forest land. So this is where you can say, hey, you know, I've done some things, but not all of it, but I do really want to stay in this program. And that's fine. And we want you to check that box. And then the last box is if for some reason you want out of the program, if you don't think it's for you anymore, or you want to do other things or whatever, you can check the box saying, I do not wish to continue certification on my forest land. And then once we receive that, we will start the decertification process. So if for some reason we find you in fault in this program, let's just saying you haven't done anything, or maybe you did a timber harvest that wasn't prescribed, it's not an immediate decertification. You do get an opportunity to fix whatever issue it is. And maybe it just means you need to go cut some grapevines, or maybe we need to cut some junk trees down or something. Whatever the case is, we'll give you 180 days to fix the issue. And if that time period you've done that, then you stay in the program. You haven't lost any of your tax break at all. So again, if you have concerns like that, feel free to reach out to me or out to your service forester. So once you've checked the appropriate box here, we ask you just so we can verify your phone number. You need to sign it and date it. And if you use an email address and you'd like us to correspond with you via email, you can put your email address in there. So, all right, so once you have this form completely filled out, or filled out to the best of your ability, if you have to leave a box blank, that's fine. And we hope that you don't have to, but if we need an answer there, we will reach out to you and give you a call or whatever. So once you got the form filled out, please mail it to your service forester. In the mailing with that form was a map of the state of Ohio, and it's got numbers on it to indicate who your forester is. So you find your county, you see what number is over top of that county, and then flip the page over. On the back side is the directory and address and phone number and email address for all of our foresters. So if for some reason you're unsure of who to mail it to or where to mail it to, you can get that there, and that info is also on our website. So that's the end of my presentation. So if you've got questions specific to your property or your forest management plan, it would be best to contact your state service forester because they're going to have your file. They're going to have, a copy of your management plan, which are things that I don't have. But if you've got questions about the program in general, or you can't reach your service forester and you can reach me, I'll be happy to try to answer your questions and help you out however I can. So my phone number and my email address are right there. I still haven't seen anybody come into the chat box, so I'm guessing you guys can't even see it, don't have the ability to do that. So I can't take any questions here live with us, and I apologize for that, because that was certainly my intention, was that if anybody had questions that we would answer them live and everybody would get the benefit from this. So the best thing I can do at this point is if you've got questions immediately, I do have my cell phone on and I will keep it on for a little while here. You're welcome to call me tonight or call me at your leisure. If you don't get me, leave me a voicemail and I will call you back. You're welcome to email me. And the plan is for this is to save the recording and post it to our website. And if that works, we will do that. If that doesn't work, then it's a big lesson learned on how these things work, and we can make the next one of these do a little more effective. So with that, I hope you enjoy our program. I obviously hope you enjoy the tax break. I've always looked at this program as a good exchange of information and resources, where you are getting a significant tax break and you're getting your woods improved. but then also you've got easy access to your state service forester who can come out and help you manage that property, and help you understand how your trees are growing and what you can do to make it better. And having the woods isn't just the back 40 with some trees growing on it. It really can benefit you in many ways, and there's a lot of things, little things you can do to make it benefit your individual goals, and that's what we're here to help you with. So with that, I appreciate your time. Looks like we had about 10 people joining us. I hope you found it beneficial, and let me know if you have any questions. So thank you.